Okay, good afternoon everyone, once again. So this video is a summary video of my earlier message on the 12 pillars of ministry that we did early on today, and because of the technical glitches that we had, I've been requested to do a summary video, so because this was quite an important part of our study on my destiny within the purpose of the church. So the 12 pillars of ministry are designed for the practical relevance of our church in doing ministry in our environment. And we're going to discuss each of the pillars over the next 12 weeks in order to better understand each area of ministry that we engage in as a church. Our scripture reading was taken from the book of 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 15. It says, "Concentrate on doing your best for God, work you won't be ashamed of, laying out the truth plain and simple." Concentrate on doing your best for God, work you won't be ashamed of, laying out the truth plain and simple. That was from the Message Bible. The words concentrate on doing your best, or do your best as the NIV says, or study to show yourself approved as the King James Version says, is a term that's used to describe a sportsman who's preparing, who's focused and doing his best to achieve his best potential at an event that he's preparing for. And this term kind of like expects us to deliver our utmost when executing any task in ministry. So we called on to display absolute focus, attention to detail when preparing for the tasks ahead in our ministry. So our ministries are part of our everyday lives, just like the sportsman would prepare and would be focused on the task ahead. We should also be focused on the tasks ahead in terms of our ministry and the work that we have, that God has ordained for us, destined for us to achieve. Every day, in every aspect of our lives, we engaged in ministry, whether we at work or whether we at school or university, just socially interacting with people, or even at church, we engage in ministry. So I'm going to briefly just look at what these different areas of ministry are all about. And we're going to just talk through them so you understand them a little bit better. So as you can see on your screen, these are the 12 areas of ministry that Ecclesia as a church engages in. And we've listed these 12 areas of ministry, and we call them our 12 pillars of ministry. So the first one is liturgy. This involves any function of the church that involves a program. So our worship team would form a part of this. Any program that's organized by the church would fall under this ministry. The next one is administration, and this is vital for record keeping and for effective functioning within the church, keeping records, making sure that documentation is up to date. This is the Department of Administration. Our economic development and finances, it deals with obviously the finances of the church, but also any effort by the church to raise funding or to procure income, or any form of economic development within the church. Pastoral care is a function of the church in which a team would engage in caring for the flock, as a shepherd would care for the flock. So this is a specific department of the church. Health and recreation, self-explanatory again, dealing with the health needs, recreational needs of people within the church. One-to-one ministry is traditionally what we would have called evangelism. Our church engages in a very specific one-on-one ministry with people in the area. Partner support ministry would have been originally referred to as missions, but our focus is not so much not only on foreign missions or international ministries, but we partner with other ministries around us, get involved with other ministries in the area, and this helps us a lot in terms of being able to work together with sister ministries to effectively do the work of Christ within our area. Public relations is another aspect of our ministry, and we encourage all churches to have someone in your church that's involved with public relations, dealing with the public, handling or handling questions or issues that are of a public nature that people need to hear about, or and especially in our technological age where we need to interact on social media or other forms of the media, having someone to manage this is very, very helpful. Education is also an important aspect of our ministry, because it requires us to be able to effectively convey what we do as a church and as a ministry, being able to educate our own flock as well as the public at large in terms of the relevance of our ministry. Focus groups deal a lot with specific groups or groupings in the church and our ministry to these groups. So, for example, youth ministry or the men's fellowship, ladies fellowship, senior citizens, those would fall under the focus groups ministry. Social action is our development work within the community, so anything that we do that impacts the community outside of the church. And lastly, our 12th pillar is technical services. This has to do with property, assets, record keeping, maintenance, all of the even transport, all of the technical aspects of being able to run a church. So these are the 12 pillars of our ministry, and we are required to effectively function as a church. So now, just the important thing to understand about the 12 pillars is that they can be used by any size church, whether you're large or small. They can be used by a church that has got 10 members in it or 10 people in it, or church with thousands of people in it. It doesn't matter. The 12 pillars of ministry can also be used in our personal lives. So we, like I said earlier on, we all engaged in ministry regardless of where we are and what kind of ministry we're doing. But we all engaged in ministry in our everyday lives. And these 12 pillars can be used to effectively convey the gospel or to entrench ourselves in ministry and effectiveness in ministry regardless of where we are. So a recommendation or a few recommendations that I would like to just bring up would be, firstly, let's assign a person to each pillar based on the person's skills or the person's willingness to learn to function in that office. We need to develop people, and if a church, for example, has 10 people in the church, assign each of those 10 people to a pillar of ministry, to an area of ministry. We must remember that the church is made up of priests. We are a priesthood, and we need to carry out ministry in the areas around us or the environment that we function in. So assigning each person or a person to each pillar ensures that you've got at least 12 people that are functioning in ministry within your church. A second recommendation that I would make is don't allow people's weaknesses to preclude them or exclude them from serving in a ministry. There are no perfect people in church, and as I said this morning, people should be used for their abilities and the fact that they are believers and they have a passion for Christ. Their weaknesses and failings should not be a factor or a reason why we would exclude them from ministry within the church. A third recommendation that I would make is avoid the temptation to do everything yourself. Trust people. Allow people to grow into excellence by nurturing them and showing them how it is to be done. Sometimes we get caught up in this need to want to do everything ourselves because we believe that we are the only ones capable of doing things in the best way. And I find from experience that when we have that attitude, we actually get far less done than had we trusted other people with responsibilities within the church. So trust people, get them to grow with you. So an important thing to realize here is that each pillar requires a very specific outcome, and the pillars may be dependent on each other, And each ministry pillar has a very unique deliverable or outcome. And we have to realize that this means that each area of ministry in the church requires a level of excellence, and we need to understand what are these unique deliverables, what are these unique outcomes that each ministry area has in order for us to effectively function within the church. The second thing I'd like you to see is that effective structures lead to increased efficiency. So as a ministry point or a preaching point right now, the second thing, effective structures lead to increased efficiency. We're called to be efficient, and we're called to carry out our ministry with efficiency, so that we can see the impact that we are having in our communities around us. And it's important for us to be efficient, because if we're not, then we will be failing in our responsibilities. We'll be failing in our duty to be able to carry out the work of God in our communities. So having an effective structure in the way we organize and arrange our ministry helps us and leads us towards efficiency. The third thing that I raised this morning was effective organization provides accountability. So when we work together with other people and we appoint other people into our ministry structures, what we find is that we become accountable to each other, and we become accountable to God. Ministry leaders become accountable to their pastors, and also the church becomes accountable to society at large. And it's important for us to have this level of accountability, because it makes us reliable ministries and trustable ministries. The final point that I had this morning was ministry pillars provide observable results that can be reevaluated. It's important for us to see that the effectiveness of our ministry is largely dependent on how accurately we are able to evaluate the outcomes of our ministry pillars. It's pointless carrying on ministry like we flying in the dark or flying blind, not knowing what we're achieving or how we're achieving it. So it's important for us to be able to look at what our achievements are. Are they effective? Are they achieving life change in the people around us? Are they achieving social change in the environments that we exist in? And these ministry pillars provide concrete, observable outcomes that we can look at and that we can see as results that can be evaluated and give us an idea of how well we are functioning as a church. So to conclude, Jesus said that a good tree bears good fruit, and a tree that does not bear fruit needs to be cut down. Doing our best, according to 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 15, requires us to be trees, or requires us to bear fruit, and we will be judged and we will be assessed. Our effectiveness will be assessed by the kind of fruit that we bear. So let's understand what our ministry roles are. We've been talking about how you can plug into the different ministries that the church engages in, and ECF members have been encouraged to plug themselves into a part of our ministry, or into a branch of our ministry or a pillar of our ministry, so that they can get involved and participate in the work of God that we're carrying out within our area. So as you walk with us on this journey over the next 12 weeks, understanding these different pillars of ministry, try to understand what it is that you can do and how you can function within the church's involvement in the community, and how effective you can be. I hope this has been a blessing, and I hope that you are able to assess your ability, your skills, your desires for God's work in your own life and in your community, and find a way to be able to plug yourself into what God is doing in your community. And for our ECF members, what is God doing through you in our church and in our community? God bless you.